So why is this important? Because it is through GMO foods. He uses frequencies in such as 440 hertz, 8 hertz, to manipulate and throw off the chakras of the melanated being so that we cannot project our will and our thoughts to the creator as well. So by eating meat and by eating certain foods and listening to certain music at a 440 hertz frequency, when the natural frequency of the universe is 432 hertz, and the melanated entity or black person vibrates at 432 hertz, but the British Standards Institute in 1939 switched the standard sound frequency from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. He threw off the equilibrium and electromagnetic field of all melanated beings in order to bring us down to his playing field. So now, by eating the foods, you are not only allowing your endocrine system to be manipulated and your pineal gland to be calcified, but you are allowing the Caucasian to force you out of your higher self into your lower self, and it is on this plane which you can be manipulated. Now, when the Kundalini energy leaves the reservoir, which we can conceptualize as what we would call the gooch area in the body, when the Kundalini energy releases from this reservoir, it flows up the spine. If the chakras are not in sync, then when it hits it, it's going to block. It's going to be like, you can think of it as taking a garden hose and bending it. When the water hits it, it gets stuck, and you have to unblock the chakras. Now, these chakras become blocked by traumatic or unpositive experiences that we may go through in life, which I may name a few in my video titled No Soul. So now, let's just assume you're a healthy flowing person and all your chakras and bodies are in sync. The Kundalini energy flows up the spine because the spine is just it's like the train. It's just the transporter of the energy. It's like a train. It's like a train on a spiritual level of manifestation. So once the Kundalini energy flows up the chakras and flows up the spine, it hits the pineal gland, opening the pineal gland up like a door and flowing out through the crown chakra. Once flowing out through the crown chakra, the energy that you possess flows through the 7 levels in which you exist and comes directly in contact with the creator. So now here we see thoughts. If you have a weak if you are not in tune with the 7 levels of your existence, or you have a weak electromagnetic field, or here we can call it an aura, then your thoughts or will or any manifestations that you try to bring into the physical realm from the spiritual realm, because we know that the spiritual realm creates the physical realm, is not being received. You cannot connect back to your higher self if your energy is not flowing to your pineal gland. So what we want to do is we want to keep all 7 levels of existence constantly stimulated on a positive scale so that the thoughts and the will of the physical realms can be received by God and manifested into physical life. This is where the Caucasian perverted the conception in what you call a prayer. You pray to God and you ask him to bring things into your life. Actually, what you're doing is you want to send a thought through your 6th chakra and your 7th chakra, being your pineal gland and your crown chakra, out the crown of the body, through the electromagnetic field, back with the creator, which is the source, which is the universe, and the universe will reconfigure your reality in order to manifest that on the physical realm. That is what you want to do. Notice that the Caucasian's electromagnetic field looks to be weaker or more displaced and not as radiant as the melanated entity. This is because by the Caucasian lacking melanin, he does not vibrate at the level of a black person, of a melanated entity. We know that science proves that a black person can take in the entire electromagnetic spectrum. A Caucasian can only take in the visible spectrum because of their melanin deficiency. So their electromagnetic field is not as radiant as a melanated being. Now, 85% of Caucasians are born with calcified pineal glands due to them being genetic defective offsprings of African people. It is a scientific fact that if you are not African or of African descent, you are only 96% human being and 4% Neanderthal. Only Africans are 100% human being. Now, why is this important? Because when the Caucasian's Kundalini energy gets the flowing up their spine and hits the pineal gland, 85% of them have a calcified pineal gland. Which means what? Let's draw the source again. Let's draw the universe, the creator, God. What does that mean? That not only is his electromagnetic field not strong enough to project his manifestations to the creator, because he is not a natural part of creation, but even if it was, his or her pineal gland is calcified. So the thought or the manifestation of the Caucasian, which is cannot even connect to the creator. So the Caucasian, as you can see, is literally cut off from what you would consider God or Allah or divinity or whatever you conceptualize the creator or the source as. The Caucasian is literally cut off from the creator. So why is this important? Because it is through GMO foods and other deities, which I'll go into in another lesson I'll make. He uses frequencies in such as 440 hertz, 8 hertz, to manipulate and throw off the chakras of the melanated being so that we cannot project our will and our thoughts to the creator as well. So by eating meat and by eating certain foods and listening to certain music at a 440 hertz frequency, when the natural frequency of the universe is 432 hertz, and the melanated entity or black person vibrates at 432 hertz, but the British Standards Institute in 1939 switched the standard sound frequency from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. He threw off the equilibrium and electromagnetic field of all melanated beings in order to bring us down to his playing field. So now, by eating the foods, you are not only allowing your endocrine system to be manipulated and your pineal gland to be calcified, but you are allowing the Caucasian to force you out of your higher self into your lower self, and it is on this plane which you can be manipulated. Now, I'm not going to go into other things at this time, family, because I just wanted y'all to know the 7 levels in which y'all exist and how to actually manifest y'all will and connect to the creator. A black person's hair is the only hair follicles on the planet which defy gravity. What do I mean by defy gravity? Everybody else here lays down. It subjects. The black person here stands above and overstands even gravity. It defies gravity on a daily basis. We're the only people on the planet who can have an afro, whose hair can literally defy the physical laws of gravity, which people claim cannot be defied. Just our genetic makeup defies these laws. We are born perfect. So stop thinking that you're born in sin. That's another lie that the Caucasian has told you. And you continue to accept it because you continue to accept their way of life, which is not yours. So black people know that you are perfect, and the goal is to not become imperfect. So stop making excuses for why you're doing wrong and get back to doing right, because that's what you was born in a perfect state. And anything that will take you out of your state of perfection is sin. So you're not born in sin, black people. We're born out of sin. You are not the same person in the club that you are in church. You are not the same person at a job interview that you are chilling with your peoples. Why? Because you have different characters in your brain that you turn into in order to handle different situations. When you are about to get into a fight, you are not the same person versus when you're about to go out on a date. These are different entities or people that you think that you are, and you actually manifest and live through. Now, these egos exist for one reason, because you have to make up and create something to help you function in moments of experiencing reality, because you're not functioning in your true self, which is the spirit. Family, do your research and have knowledge of yourself and know that you are the children of God excessively. We understand that God is the universe, and God is the highest in the mind, which uses elements and matter to express itself. These physical bodies are nothing but shells which hold our true selves, which is light bodies. And me as a man, my physical body comes from the black woman, and the black woman's physical body comes from the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki's physical body comes from the universe, and we understand that the universe is God. And the Caucasian's physical body comes from the black person's physical body. So now that we have just pulled rank on who's who and how the order of existence actually goes, now we can actually live according to true law and order and follow the laws of Mayat and righteousness. So black people understand that you are divine descendants of your highest self, which is the universe, which is God, and that is the rank and file and order you should fall in. No, I'm not telling you to worship the Anunnaki as a God, because I'm telling you, as your God personally, I'm not telling you to don't go in your room and be like, oh, put up pictures and murals. I'm just telling you to acknowledge where you come from, because our ancestors want us to acknowledge the greatness within us so that they can communicate with us on our highest frequency. The only thing you need to be teaching people is how to raise their spiritual vibration so that they can ascend to the 5th dimension, because the planet is heating up and is getting ready to incinerate everybody who doesn't have a certain carbon molecule within them. That's all you need to be teaching. You ever watched The Matrix? Now, what do we know about The Matrix? Mr. Smith, he's a virus in the Matrix. The Matrix is the mind. And when Neo finally wakes up and he gets what you call knowledge itself, he gets the truth. What do Mr. Smith do? His main goal is to kill Neo, so everybody in the Matrix could stay asleep, because Neo trying to wake him up. But what the main point of this analogy is, Mr. Smith has infected so many people with his bullshit mind virus that he don't even have to be present. Other people turn into Mr. Smith for Mr. Smith and start fighting Neo themselves. I'm coming with pure knowledge of the soul that cannot be disproven. And since you niggas have never heard of this shit, because you niggas ain't vibrating at that level of consciousness, because you rely on a Bible or a textbook that the cracker wrote, turn right into Mr. Smith and start trying to battle me for the real white man in the suits. I'm not arguing what other motherfuckers wrote. I'm showing people how to get back in tune with their higher self. I'm showing people how to talk directly back to the creator. I'm showing people how to actually change their reality. All you motherfuckers on my shit talking about Pharaoh pseudo, you don't got people in your inbox saying, thanks, Pharaoh. You opened my eyes to this. Thanks, Pharaoh, for talking to my little nephew. Now he goes back to school again. Thanks, Pharaoh, for getting my daughter back on the right track. Hey, Pharaoh, I watched your video and I realized that that's exactly what's been happening to my spirit. And I did your meditation and I've been actually able to sleep better, or my household has gotten better. Thanks, Pharaoh. You niggas ain't producing no results. We here to change and cultivate the soul. Now, I can get into specific doctrines and expose them, but that's not my primary focus. My primary focus is restoring the pineal gland back to its full power so that we can be spiritually set back on our throne as black people, because that is where our power lies. So when I tell the black race, sciences such as the thought, the brainwave travels directly directly along the latitude and longitude lines of the planet Earth, because you haven't researched how I researched on this. Let alone, you don't do this. You don't communicate with no entities. You don't astral project. You don't do nothing that I do. I spiritually cultivate myself. That's my number one foundation. Now, motherfucking, I'm not no veterinarian. Black people always trying to be crabs in a bucket. Nigga, we liberating the people. Nigga, you liberate the people from your half. Let me do my half. Why you want to come over here? Go pull up a map on Google and search Israel. See where Israel was at. It should be directly next to Egypt, which is Northeast Africa. Descendants of Shem and descendants of Ham and Abraham and Moses. Okay, y'all say that y'all are separate from Africa. Y'all are not Africans, right? Africans are not your brother. So I'm not your brother, even though we share the same genetic structure and makeup and we both are melanated beings. You want to say I'm not your brother. Moses, right? Y'all like Moses. Moses, who is really supposed to be the Pharaoh Thutmose III. So y'all like Moses. Y'all listen to Moses. But yet Moses was an Egyptian pharaoh, but you claim to not be an Egyptian, but yet you still unknowingly and ignorantly propagate the falsified story of an Egyptian pharaoh. Abraham is Pharaoh Akhenaten, another African Egyptian king, but yet you still try to disassociate yourself with Egypt. I can go on to many more characters in the Bible who actually turn out to be pharaohs in Egypt, but I'm going to stop there. So how do you sit here and try to disassociate yourself from Egypt and the African civilization when in fact the same prophets who you propagate are actually undercover pharaoh kings that the white man perverted to create his book? So now, for one, you are ignorantly promoting the white man's agenda. For two, you are ignorantly separating yourself from the rest of your race. And for three, you are trying to get people to confine themselves to 6,000 years worth of perverted history when we have 1,000,000 years worth of history on this planet. Yet alone, like I keep telling people, go Google the 200,000-year-old civilization, which is near South Central Africa, which is not nowhere near Israel. Wasn't no Israelites there, like I said. So y'all talking about I'm not coming with facts. Oh, I'm coming with facts. You're not coming with facts. You're trying to get motherfuckers to believe them hocus pocus stories. for one of my black queen sisters who I just read the comments. She wants me to do a video on how blacks conquer whites. Here it is. Mulattoes, straight like that. White people were not allowed to even enter Egypt at one point in time, or Kemet. When they kicked out all of the Caucasians, they kept the white women. So my assumption is maybe they tried to breed them off the planet, because you know that a white person's number one fear is an intelligent black person. Number two is to have a baby by a black person, because now that baby now becomes black and becomes melanated because the gene gets healed by coming in contact with the more stronger dominant gene. But with that being said, I don't know if the pharaohs were trying to procreate the white race off the planet or what it was, or heal their bodies or whatever, but they kicked out all the white Caucasian males and kept the white females, and the black females, the black queens, the black goddesses were never allowed to have sex with the white males. So the black men kept the white females. With that being said, needless to say, they had mulattoes. So now what do you do as a mulatto? You naturally love your mother. So what the white mothers or the grandmothers of the mulatto child did was they said, hey, look at how your father's side of the family treats us. They don't let us come in Egypt. They don't let us do anything. Da-da-da-da-da. And they swindled the child the same way white people have taught you to swindle your child against the father. They swindled the child against the father. So what did the child do? Now, by me being the Pharaoh, when you my son, when I have a son, when you gonna inherit this throne. So now what happens? When a white or when a mulatto child inherits the throne, and now they have the power to make certain decisions, they say, I don't like the fact that we ain't been letting my mother's side in here, and I don't care about none of that. I love my mom. I'm letting her and all her savage barbarian family members in here to cause the chaos they want to cause. Now, the mulatto might not have knew that they was going to do this, but that is what he did. He let them in. Now, what did the African Egyptians, whose homeland this was, who were basically like the way you're a citizen of the United States and there's a president, where they were citizens of Egypt and that mulatto pharaoh was the president, they said, fuck that. You ain't letting them in here. This is our land. We don't give a fuck about none of that. You the son of the pharaoh. You a mulatto. We don't care about none of that. And needless to say, conflict broke out. So you have Africans. This is where the first instance of divide and conquer come from. You got Africans saying, fuck you, you going with them devils. And you got some Africans saying, well, I got a white woman and da-da-da-da-da-da, my sons have one. So now all this turmoil and war goes on, and the white people just manipulating and swiveling their way right into our royal throne to where they was able to take it from us and snatch it. So it was from this point on where they conquered Egypt. Now, they conquered the physical land of the one physical land of the African people, because we know how big the continent of Africa is. Now they conquer Egypt, so they conquered the physical land, but they never conquered the mental and spiritual land of the black person. So what they did was, hundreds of years later or centuries later, they created Christianity, because they said, now we have these people's land, but we still don't have their minds. So when they created Christianity, they forced that shit on us. So now not only are we tied in them through bloodlines and defending them to be, oh, my girlfriend's white or my uncle's white or da-da-da. Now you can get me to agree with you mentally and spiritually. So you have taken my land, you have swindled your way in my land, and you have swindled your way in my mind and my soul. And that is how white people have conquered black people and continue to today. Now I'm just want to keep this video short. I don't want to make it a history lesson, but do your research, and you will see that no black land was ever conquered by white people before they introduced Christianity. If you don't believe me, the first land that white people went to with their Catholicism and their Christianity is after its creation, after shutting down, dismissing Egypt, would be Ethiopia. They went there, spread that crap across Ethiopia, and you can see Ethiopians today. They are starving and dying, and before Christianity, they were not in the state. So with that being said, white people conquer black people by having babies with you and forcing you to mix blood lineage with them, because your blood actually creates loyalty, and loyalty is through the bloodline. This is why if somebody try to do something to your sister or your brother, you're on the front lines, because y'all share the same blood. So it activates for you to want to defend that bloodline. It's just a genetic and metaphysical fact that you are going to be loyal to who you share blood with. This is why people will fight for their family and their immediate household so hard, because their blood and DNA actually is telling you to protect the extension of itself. So when you share DNA and bloodlines with white people, you are now making yourself bonded to them. And I'm not saying don't be bonded to anyone who's not righteous, whatever color they are, but you have to understand the white race as a whole has a white supremacy agenda. So when you have a child with someone who may not themselves be a part of this agenda, but their race is, and now you becoming genetically bonded to defend that person and be loyal to that person, now you can be manipulated and used as a pawn to help promote their divide and conquer tactic in order to support their white supremacy agenda. And with that being said, stay away from if you black, my advice would be keep you a black woman in your house.
All right, everybody, that was Pharaoh Allah. He is very good. I watched all of his videos. They are the best. Anyway, so we're getting into, this is a tuning fork right here. So I'm trying to figure out why we can't use our own sounds that we make ourselves. This is just some information on it. This is actually for my own studying, but I made a video. Okay, here we go. Booyah.
This is trained vocalist Derek Tilton performing in Washington State.
Seen it in cartoons and on films, but I didn't really realize it would be that easy to do at home.
The glass finally submits to Derek singing. But what in the name of science is going on?
This trick works due to a bit of science called resonance, and that's basically vibrations. Everything around us is vibrating. Now, the glass vibrates at a certain frequency, and that can be replicated in a sound wave.
Here, this is how it sounds. That's the natural frequency of the wine glass. If you can excite it with your voice at the same frequency, it will shatter.
When he starts to kind of sing or produce his note at a certain frequency, the glass molecules ever so slightly start to vibrate.
And that's what actually throws the straw out. That's how he knows he's hitting the right note.
You get to a critical period where, bang, the molecules can't hold together anymore. The vibrations are so great, they literally rip apart.
And if you're tempted to shatter your family's best wine glass, remember, our daredevil is wearing safety glasses.
Safety shades are a nice look. They should adopt them in science labs.
This is a standard tuning fork used to tune a piano. The particular pitch or a note of this fork is a C, a middle C on a piano. This note here. That corresponds to a frequency of 523.3 hertz. So if you hit the tuning fork against a firm object, this block of wood, and place it up against a wooden surface, the vibrations resonate and we can hear the tone clearly. You might also notice when you first hit it, there's a higher pitch sound we can hear. That's ringing, a ringing sound. That's a much higher frequency. It actually corresponds to about 6 times, a little more than 6 times, the fundamental or main vibration. In music, octaves correspond to a doubling of the frequency. So this is middle C. The next octave higher, 8 notes higher, is also C. That's twice the frequency. The next C would be 4 times the frequency. The next C would be 8 times the frequency. So this high-pitched ring we're hearing, which is a little more than 6 times the fundamental frequency, is somewhere between 4 and 8. Ends up being around here somewhere.
327.0.6 hertz.
Because they're designed to get rid of cracks, but I'm going to demonstrate it for you, and feel free to sing along. I use an E vowel, E, and I go like this. And I do that up and down like a siren a couple of times. Now, if my voice catches, which is quite often when when I haven't warmed up, I do this, and I'm going to exaggerate this for you so you can hear. Okay. Over that little crack, I smooth up and down. See, there's a crack. I'm deliberately cracking here, but just to give you an idea. Okay, so I do that exercise. I do this in the car, usually with a stereo on, and the window's up so no one else can hear me on the way to the gig. Then, once you've kind of done that a few times, and you're feeling a little bit warmer, then you can move to the next exercise, which is the same thing, but using an R vowel. So you do this. Deep breath in,
This next one is vocal exercises with the M's. You close your mouth and you say turn it up. See? Mouth closed.
In this kind of cathedral dome of your head really determines what the audience hears and what you hear. So in the case of chest voice, you want your chestier voice to resonate in your mouth, where kind of your speaking range is as well, versus a head voice which can flip up into the cavern of your head right here. So how would you do this? How would you kind of link your speaking tone to your chest voice? The thing I mostly recommend most often is to think of a really simple warm-up that exists in a lower part of your range where you would typically sing in a chest voice, and apply the word hey to it. You can say the hey as speaky as you want, hey, but as you'll notice, anytime you even speak a word, there's always a kind of implied pitch to it, right? A hey versus a hey, hey, hey. Those are two different pitches, although I am speaking them. So in the case of this, I often give my voice students like a warm-up that would be like, hey, ah, where we hit the hey, and I tell them, actually pretend you're speaking, or actually do speak, pretend you see me across the street, and you're like, hey, hey, and then hear that pitch, hey, ah, and then we kind of link them together. So the more you can start to see that chest voice song is really not that far departure from your chest voice, using a kind of friendly vowel like hey, or even if you want to go what, wah, wah, like something that will get you to kind of open and relax. I think the sooner you're going to find that your chest voice is actually so much easier than you think, and that your singing voice is not that different from your speaking voice. The next tip I have for you, if you're someone who's having trouble finding that chest voice sound, is to eliminate breathiness from your voice. It's so much harder to focus a sound and to create a nice resonance or kind of volume in your head when the cord, meaning your vocal cord, is allowing air to leak out. So it's the difference between a ah, which has no breathiness, and ah. Hear the difference? And a lot of times, the reason that breathy sound automatically pops up into what we can perceive of as a head voice is because we don't have the focus to allow it to spin in this speaky range. If I apply a lot of breath right now, breathiness to my speaking voice, it's like, hey, I'm now in my speaking voice. It automatically pops up into a head voice. Really what that technically is like a falsetto. Falsetto means it's like you're allowing air to come through. But it does sound like a head voice, and as a result, your sounds will resonate back here. So what I would really recommend for you is to deal with a really easy warm-up, maybe a basic ah, and work on zipping those cords closed. Now, eliminating breathiness is a little bit tricky in that it's not really something you'll be able to feel necessarily. When you deal with cord closure or compression, you don't want to have to like overly close your cord or anything like that. But what you can do is you can think of the word uh-oh. Hear how uh-oh has that closure? It's called a glottal stop. You can think uh-oh, ah, oh, okay, versus ah, where the air leaks through. Another onset, or kind of an onset means the way you start singing. Another consonant that's helpful is a Y. If you say ya 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 ya, the Y kind of helps you nicely kind of close the chord. It's a very gentle adjustment, but once you are able to close your chords effectively, you're going to find that it's much easier to then maintain that sense that you're speaking and that you're spinning the sound in your mouth, which is where chest voice comes from. So the sooner that you are able to kind of zip up that chord, create a nice compression, you're going to get great breath support because you're not going to be leaking air, and you're just going to be able to focus the sound more. ah becomes ya, 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 ya. Oh my gosh, I can really spin it. It feels like I'm speaking. That's something I think is going to go a long way in helping you eliminate that heady falsetto sound from your voice. The last tip I have for you is a little bit touchy-feely, but it has to do with the fear element of singing in a chest voice. And believe it or not, a lot of singers I encounter who are used to singing in this kind of, it's almost like this restrained, like, head voice that I'm singing. It sort of comes sometimes, and I'm not saying in all cases, but a lot of times it comes kind of from like a lack of confidence and a lack of kind of wanting to be assertive. So when you're singing in a chest voice and it's supported and you're saying, hey, hey, there's a lot more effort and voice that is articulated versus hey, right? And sometimes I do find there is a correlation between shyness and not really wanting to go there and then using a chest voice, if you can believe it. So my last tip has to do with just eliminating the fear. Eliminating the fear of maybe creating an aggressive sound or a sound that you think of as yelly. Maybe at first, this feeling of singing a chest voice is going to feel out of control. But as long as you're not tensing, as long as you're using your speaking voice as a guide, it's going to be a natural extension of who you are. And if you're someone who encounters this in your singing, meaning head voice and leaking breathiness, you might also take a look at or just become aware of your speaking voice. Sometimes I do find that singers who, have a kind of like leakier head voice and have trouble in their chest voice, sometimes speak with it, or sometimes are, kind of articulating back here, and the breath's leaking out. So you know what I'm talking about. So just kind of be aware of your day-to-day, of how you are used to using your instrument. And I think the sooner you can zip those chords, and you can create that spin in the mouth that feels very conversational, the sooner you'll find that your chest voice is there. It just right now feels like possibly when you sing, there's like a switch, and you suddenly have to be back here or operatic. The way I teach voice is that it should feel natural. It should feel like who you are. It should be an extension of your voice. So if you're
And your turn.
Voice Finder. I help you find your voice by linking your mind to your body and giving you the simplest and most potent cues that are going to give you real results for your voice fast. We're going to be using the imaginary riff that I made up. It goes like this. Go. Okay, so da 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 da. Okay, it's just whatever. And I'm just basically going to break down the principles of riffing that make it successful and how you can sort of achieve them yourself. So the first principle that makes riffing possible is that when you're riffing, you're using a very small amount of vocal cord. It's a very small feeling, and it's basically the way your voice works is your folds come together like this when you sing. When you riff, you use the innermost part of your chords, and that's really the most agile part of your voice, and that's what allows you to kind of dance along. It feels like kind of dancing along the tops of the notes. Go, na 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 na. It's like very light versus versus a sound that's very big and uses a lot of chord. So in order to make that focused feeling of using a small amount of chord easier for you, it actually helps to practice your riffing on narrow vowels. A narrow vowel would be like an E or an oo versus something like an ah or an If you try your favorite riff on an now that's achievable, but it's just a lot harder to start there. So I suggest you take your favorite riff and you create an oo sound. Now as you do that oo, make sure you're kind of laughing or yawning in the back of your throat, but you're funneling it forward. And what that helps to do is just reinforce that feeling of a narrow focused sound. And then on top of that, I want you to keep it very small and soft. It's just a lot more achievable. So that's the bass line. Now, when you're using this small amount of chord, what's also happening in a successful riff is that you're creating a seal between your breath and basically your vocal folds. And it's sort of a technical concept, but basically what you don't want when you riff is you don't want flimsy chords that are breathy or leaky, like that just makes it really hard to get that kind of dancey sound that's really compelling. The best riffers have a really efficient seal. And the way you can create a seal when you're practicing is to use the consonant G or B. So you could go goo 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 goo, or boo 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 boo. So once you get the hang of that, you can decrease the number of G's or B's that you use in your practice run, so it's not every single note, but maybe every couple notes throughout the run. Goo goo goo, something like that. So it makes it a little easier, but you're still reinforcing that feeling of it being sealed. Now, the second thing that's really important when you're riffing or running is to have an even exhale of breath as you're doing this. Now, a cue I really like to give to my singers is that as you inhale, you think down and fill up your tank underneath your rib cage, and then as you sing, there's an elevator shaft that goes from under your rib cage down to your butt. So as you're riffing, after you kind of get the hang of the melody, you want to put your mental focus down here and think of it as one exhale. So it would be something like goo 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 goo. Goo, 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 goo. And then finally, goo. The two final kind of magic cues that are going to help you with your riffing are something called fish lips. And fish lips are basically going to help to neutralize jaw and larynx tension. As you're riffing, it's really helpful if you keep your voice box neutral. And that's sort of easier said than done because a lot of times it's subconscious when your larynx starts to rise. However, if you're doing steady, even breathing below, and you create these fish lips, it's going to help to create a nice, even, relaxed feeling. And it's going to really help your riffing. Go! Now, as you're using the fish lips, you might feel there's a little bit of movement in the jaw, and I'm not really a purist. I think that's okay if there's slight movement, but really this fish lip sensation of kind of being like, hey, what's up, really helps to kind of keep it relaxed as you riff. So this final cue is a little weird, and it's called the opposite cue. And it basically has to do with riffing down versus riffing up. How many of you feel like riffing up, hey, is easier than riffing down? Hey, right? It's kind of like harder to do that. And for a lot of reasons, what happens is when we sing notes that go down, a lot of times what will happen is for some reason mentally, we think of it as a decrease in energy. And what will happen is your breath stops engaging. And also a lot of times the support structure in your face, when you're singing, you're supposed to create space. A lot of times that will start to sag or kind of clench if you go down in pitch. So what the opposite cue does is it encourages you to think up as you go down. So for our riff, our made-up riff, go. Even though I'm breathing and maintain that space in the back. Go. It just helps to keep it lifted and supported and also energized. So it's not like go. So try out these tips. Let me know if using a focused vowel, utilizing G or B, activating even breath as.
But this is an exercise. It's a framework for understanding it. Now here we go. Just sing with me. Well, I'll do it first. I'll demonstrate it, and then you can sing with me. So here we go. So here it is. 1, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. about the pentatonic scale is when it is applied, when it's used, not all 5 notes of the pentatonic are used in every riff and every run. Quite often, it's only 4 notes or 3 notes of the pentatonic. And this is going to make sense when I drop the numbers, okay? So I'm going to drop the numbers, and I'll use an ah vowel, okay? So here it is. I'm going to sing ah, 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 okay? Now, it doesn't sound like riffs and runs right now, but if I were to sing it with a style that's more reflective of today's modern contemporary vocalists, very quickly, this exercise will sound pretty legit. All right, check this out. So say I went, ah, 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 ah. See what I did? I just added some little style tricks in there, some grace notes, a couple of little slides, and then it sounds more authentic, okay? Now, you look at the pyramid real quick. You can actually see how each layer of this exercise represents a certain type of riff or run, and this is the first inversion. Now, this is not an Illuminati triangle, okay? It's just a triangle, and this is just an exercise, and this is the first inversion of the pentatonic scale, okay? And we're going to move on to the next exercise. So here we go. Here we go. We're going to use the numbers, and it's going to appear on the screen as well. So it's 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. You can just rewind and try it again. Okay. Just go through it, practice it, do it again, practice it again. It takes this type of practice to actually understand riffs and runs, okay? But if you will commit yourself to the work, it will be extraordinary what you come out with, okay? We're going to drop the numbers and we'll use an O vowel, okay? So check this out. O, 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 O. Okay? And I'm going to sing it with a style that sounds more like modern contemporary vocalists. Oh, 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 oh. Do you see how that works? Please practice this. You'll get it if you practice this video. And this video is for you. All right? So, the raspy voice, I like to actually suggest that you access it through the whisper. That's actually how you do it. Now, most vocal coaches will tell you that the whisper isn't the healthiest thing to do for your voice, but we're talking about rasp and growls anyway, so the singing textbook is pretty much thrown out the window, okay? So, through the medium of the whisper, yeah. See how that works? So that's the raspy voice. People actually sing entire phrases with that kind of voice, all right? Not the healthiest thing to do, but if that's the desired sound that you're going for, then go ahead and try it. Don't overdo it. Further to this discussion is the growl. Now, when it comes to the growl, I always caution people not to growl in the chest voice, all right? First of all, it doesn't always sound the best, all right? Let me demonstrate that. All right? What a growl is pretty much the same vocal mechanism as you would put in place if you were going to cough or clear your throat, all right? It's like, See how that works? Interesting sound. But I actually suggest that people growl in the mixed voice or the head voice, all right? It actually engages less of the vocal cords. It puts less stress on the vocal cords, and it engages more of the arytenoid cartilages, all right? And it's less damaging to your voice, although growling as a whole is damaging. Okay, I'm cautioning you now. All right. So a head voice growl or a mixed voice growl sounds like. See how that works at the top? You want to be sparing and careful with where you apply your growls. You don't want to growl a whole sentence or riff in growls. You want to just, put it here and there as a little accent to your singing. All right? So, till next time, this is Paul McKay. Tune your mind. Remember to subscribe to the channel. All right?